An alien captain is expecting screaming. I mean, that's just what always happened when prisoners finally realized where they were going. There was fear, there was panic, there was begging. But the human prisoner sitting across from him, he simply stared out the ship's window, completely quiet, just watching the stars. You see, they were heading to a prison station floating alone in deep space, way out beyond Coalition territory. Officially, it didn't even exist. It was a black site where dangerous political prisoners just disappeared. Scientists, rebels, military leaders, basically anyone the Coalition feared. And the thing is, absolutely no one ever escaped. Not because the prison was heavily armed, though, it definitely was. And not because it was completely secret, though it was that too. People never escaped because the station was designed to literally destroy hope itself. It used total isolation, total darkness, total silence. Eventually, every single prisoner broke. Every species, every time. Well, except humans. So the captain is looking at this guy, and he frowns. He asks him, "You understand what this facility is?" The human just nods once. So the captain presses him, "And you are not afraid?" The human actually thinks about it for a second, really honestly, and then he just casually shrugs and says, "A little." Let me tell you, that answer somehow disturbed the alien captain way more than blind panic ever would have. Now they arrive, and the captain is escorting this human through these massive, imposing steel corridors lined with perfectly silent guards. There are prisoners from dozens of different species sitting completely motionless behind energy barriers. They are completely broken, empty, defeated. But then the human notices something kind of strange. People were watching him, not the guards, but the prisoners. There were these tiny movements, silent glances, just a spark of curiosity. So the human does what we do. He smiles politely at one of them, and the prisoner immediately looks away in absolute panic. The captain severely warns him, do not interact with other inmates. The human just nods casually and says, sure. But 3 days later, that's when the problems began. A prisoner laughed. Honestly, that alone absolutely shocked the guards. Most of these prisoners had stopped laughing months or even years earlier. And it didn't stop there. Another prisoner started speaking during meal distribution, then another. Before they knew it, entire cell blocks were quietly communicating. The station commander is furious and demands an immediate investigation. The big question is just what changed? And the security footage revealed the answer almost instantly. It was the human. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't trying to escape. He wasn't sabotaging any systems. He was literally just talking. That was it. He was talking during meals, talking during work assignments, talking through the cell walls. And somehow, morale was actually spreading like wildfire. The commander is watching this footage in total disbelief and just asks, how? One of his officers hesitates and says, he tells stories. The commander is stunned. Stories. The officer nods, looking super uncertain. Yeah, about Earth, human history, terrible jokes, random memories. They pull up a clip, and the commander stares at the screen. It shows these exhausted, broken prisoners listening in dead silence, while the human is speaking warmly through a maintenance vent. You can hear him saying, and then the idiot tried fighting a kangaroo. Suddenly, several of the alien prisoners start making these strange choky noises. The officer looks totally confused and says, "Sir, they're laughing." For the first time in years, the commander felt genuine, deep unease. Hope was dangerous, and it was incredibly dangerous inside a place like this. So they take immediate action. The human is completely isolated. No contact, no communication, no shared work details. But you know what? It completely failed. Within days, the other prisoners actually began helping each other voluntarily. They were sharing their food. They were stepping in to protect the weaker inmates. They even started communicating through these coded taps in the walls. The violence decreased, and suicide stopped completely. The commander is reviewing these reports with just growing anger and panic, demanding to know what is happening to my prison. But no one could answer him, because none of them understood it. Finally, the commander decides he has to visit the human personally. He walks into isolation, and the prisoner is just sitting there calmly, holding a little handmade chess piece he'd carved out of scrap metal. The commander looks at him, his voice dripping with venom, and says, "You infected them." The human blinks, looking genuinely innocent, and asks, "With what?" The commander spits out the word, "Hope." And the human? He looks surprised for a second, and then he actually laughs softly with pure amusement. "You make that sound dangerous." The commander just stares at him, It is. The human just studies the alien commander quietly for a moment. Then he asks a really piercing question. How long have you worked here? The commander frowns. What does that matter? How long? 11 years, the commander replies. The human nods slowly. And when was the last time anyone smiled at you? Complete silence. The commander suddenly felt deeply, intensely irritated. He snaps. You manipulate emotions. But the human just tilts his head. No? He pauses. I remind people they still have them. The commander left the room immediately. But man, that question followed him long after he walked out. When was the last time someone actually smiled at him? So days pass, then weeks, and somehow this impenetrable prison just kept changing. Prisoners started exercising again, they were cleaning their cells, speaking openly. They were actually planning for futures they would probably never even get to see. One elderly prisoner even started teaching mathematics classes through the walls. The guards were getting really nervous. One of them said, "This is becoming organized." Another guard whispered back, "No, it's becoming human." And let me tell you, that single sentence spread fear faster than a riot ever could. Because here is the absolutely crucial difference. Humans adapt to suffering entirely differently than other species. Most species in this galaxy endured suffering by shutting down emotionally. They tried to reduce the pain by just accepting the hopelessness. But humans, we do the exact opposite. Humans survive suffering by creating meaning right in the middle of it. We use friendship, we use humor, stories, purpose. This prison wasn't weakening the humans were fundamentally changing the prison. Then came the climax of it all. One night, the power failed briefly across cell block 7. We're talking just 13 seconds of pitch black darkness. When the systems came back online, the guards braced for the worst. But no one had escaped. There was no violence, nothing was stolen. However, the security footage captured something absolutely terrifying to the coalition. During that complete darkness, the prisoners had instinctively reached for each other. Not for weapons, not for the exits. They reached for each other. The commander watched that footage over and over in total silence. Because suddenly, it all clicked. He finally understood why humanity frightened the galaxy so deeply. Humans were dangerous because they carried hope into places specifically designed to kill it. And hope, as it turns out, is highly contagious. About a month later, the commander received his transfer orders. The coalition had decided they needed to remove all humans from the prison permanently. They were just too disruptive, too influential, way too dangerous. The commander personally escorted the human to his departing transport shuttle. Right before stepping inside, the human paused. He looked back toward that massive, dark prison station one final time. You know, he said quietly, you built this place to break people. The commander didn't say a word. He just stood there silently. The human smiled slightly with this total sincerity and warmth and said, but people are harder to break when they stop feeling alone. And with that, he boarded the shuttle. The prison station did continue operating after he left, technically anyway, but it never fully recovered. The prisoners just kept talking, kept helping each other, laughing, hoping. And deep inside the official coalition records, a permanent warning was eventually added right next to all future human detainee protocols. It read, never isolate humans together. They will teach survival to everyone else. You know, this source material is sci-fi, but it beautifully illustrates such a profound truth about us. Our greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our absolute, relentless capacity for connection. So looking at our own world today, where are the dark places that could use a little human contagion of hope? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.